Hello there, my friend.
Hi. Hi, Kate. Hi, everyone.
It's great to see you, Danielle.
Great to see you too.
I love having you here today. You're live. We're going to make a fantastic bracelet, and it is live. It is Wednesday, March 26th. Everybody is here, Danielle, and they're talking about how much they love your color combination on this project.
Oh, thank you so much. I had a really fun time putting together these colors.
Yeah, it was so good. And Janice is back and on the other side moderating. JP, we certainly missed you last week, but we're glad that you had some rest and relaxation. So it's great to see everybody here. So before we go any further, Danielle, I'm going to put up some contact info for everyone, and then we're going to jump right into it, into your fantastic project. So you can find us, of course, everybody, beadshop.com, on our Facebook. We'd love to see you over on our Facebook page, The Bead Table. We'd also love to see you tag us on Instagram so we can share out your projects. Our Pinterest pages are full of ideas. You can go ahead and share our ideas and stuff from there. Of course, on YouTube, hit that like, subscribe, and notification button, whether you're watching us live or on replay. Really helps to get the word out. And we're everywhere, all over social at beadshop.com. And of course, you can reach right out to us via email at info@beadshop.com. Okay, I think I've done it all now, Danielle. Your piece, it's called Mayfair, right? I've added it
Oh
here.
yeah, I think or Maytime.
Maytime. I'm sorry. Maytime. I don't know why I was saying Mayfair. It's so cool. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your inspo behind it?
Yeah, it was actually kind of inspired by the project we did together last month. So we did the bespoke bracelet that had a button on one end and leather on one end.
Right.
And while we were working on that, I had several in-process samples laying side by side, very similar to how these are here. And it gave us the idea of, oh, well, we could do a buttonhole, make two and do a buttonhole and a button cuff. And so after the live, we hatched up this idea and I went to stitching and here it is.
Yeah, here it is. It's so great. And so you also sent over a new pattern for the bespoke cuff. I'm going to be launching that pattern tomorrow. So those of you who want that pattern wide, check your newsletters tomorrow for the link. It'll be in there. Thank you so much, Danielle, for doing that for us. And then they can just follow. Would they do it this way, or would you just loom it double?
So now they'll have three options. They can make the single band like we did in the class, or they can also, oh, that'll come back in a minute.
Okay, no problem. I'm going to take it out for a sec.
Yeah, it does that sometimes. Not sure why.
Yeah.
So yeah, they'll be able to make it this just one band. They can make it the double, which is just peyote stitch double, right? It's just with the pattern repeated. Or they can do the way we're going to do today, which would be go back and create that first one twice and then flip it.
Right.
And stitch together the way we're going to show today.
Okay, awesome. Well, I love that. And Diana, let me add this back. And Diana's says page can't be found. Is that that might be the link down below in the comments. So let me fix that because we had to update the handout. So the link actually in the newsletter and down below aren't correct. So let me change that. I'll change that, but you can jump right over to Danielle's project page over on Beadshop, and it's all correct. We had just a little typo in there that was confusing. So I'll do that now and here's the project. Thanks, JP. Pardon me. So Danielle, why don't you go ahead and take it away? I'm super excited to see how this goes together. And I too am in love with these colors that you chose. Let me spotlight this, and then I'll do some magic behind the scenes.
Well, thanks, Kate. So here's the cuff, and it's a really, really simple idea. And you could really do this with any peyote stitch pattern that you have. You simply make two of them. So you'll make a couple and then lay them side by side. And what we're going to do is just weave them together, matching the color bead that you're exiting and going into. And in one end of it, you'll just replace one of those beads with the button shank that you're using. On one end, you'll replace or leave blank, just weave around and leave, in this case, it was 6 beads blank so that you can wear it buttoned up.
Oh, it looks so great. And you can use really any button on there, Danielle, right? As long as it has a shank, and you would just make the buttonhole larger or smaller according to the button size, correct?
Yep, exactly. In fact, I think in the
Wow.
instructions, I wrote it up so that you do the buttonhole side first, so
Ah,
you
I
can
see.
the button as you go, just
Smart.
while you're holding it, and then once you're happy with that, you keep stitching, and the
Mhm.
button is pretty much the last thing that gets put
The
on.
last thing that's put on. Awesome. And someone had a question about the typo. It was the beads that said they were 8-aught delicas rather than 8-aught rocales, so, or
Mm,
11-aught delicas. So we fixed that. But so if you've already downloaded it, you can already just, you can make a little note like Danielle did there.
yeah, sorry
Um,
about that. That was my bad. I worked from our template from last time, and so
Well, that's what happens sometimes. And then also, Danielle, you made us a bonus project. Will you
I
show us
did.
that too? Do you mind? We'll get to that in a second, but people are saying that they like the texture variations on the bonus project. And that was a surprise. I looked at it and I'm all, good job. I love it so much.
I love this mix. This mix is gorgeous. And so I just grabbed some other colors from your shop and I combined them. And I also loved this button that you have. This is so beautiful. And so I just put those together and it was so fun. I used the hex beads in one of them because I just love the color.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if it was going to work, but I just kept going. And it turns out that it's actually a feature because it makes it look wavy. Like when
Yeah.
you're
I
wearing
love
it,
it.
it's so fun. I think I'm just going to put it on and wear
Yeah,
it.
I think it's fantastic. And so thank you. That's on the last page of the handout. And the only place, folks, that you can find it is download that handout and grab it. I love it. I love how you use the multicolor mix of the February monthly mix, the Sealy, and then you just added some colors that
Mhm.
complemented it. Really fantastic.
I
And the
know.
materials list, the ingredients that Danielle used, they are in it's in the handout, and these are all 8-aught beads, 8-aught rocales, with the exception that's an 8-aught um, hex bead, and you can see that's where they are right there. And then but you could also size this down and
Yes.
use 11-aughts if you wanted to, and size it up and use 6-aughts, right? It doesn't really matter the size as long as you're fairly consistent with them throughout the
Oh
project.
yeah. I mean, you could do these with any beads that you'd like.
Hmm.
It would work with pretty much any kind of bead.
Great, great.
Yeah. So super, super fun. I think the real trick with working with, for example, if you're working with smaller beads, keeping in mind that the length that you have to create here is
Hmm.
going to be enough to overlap on your wrist
Hmm.
because you're going to need room for that button and the buttonhole to connect. So I put in the handout to do about 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch, depending on how tightly you like to wear it. It is going to slide, like see how it's kind of sliding a little bit.
Right.
So um, if you make it a little looser, it's going to do that more. Then if you make it a little tighter, it might do that a little less, or vice versa. Actually, I think I mixed that up in my mind. Um,
Right.
but so yeah, that's the only trick is if you're working with some 11 O's, it's going to be a lot of stitching. But it goes pretty fast with 8 O's. I feel like.
Yeah, and I love the mix of the colors that you used. I think that that light tea rose that is
Yes.
it really does a lot for the design. I mean, I love the colorway, but also I love how you mix the finishes of the beads. I think that really makes a difference, and that light tea rose really does what it's supposed to do. I love it.
I love this mat, and it just pops next to the alabaster. That was really
Mhm.
fun.
Yeah, it really does. I love the alabaster beads a lot, but this is really a lesson in taking a look when you're pulling your bead palette to mix up like the colors or the textures. Like, see, there you go with that teal. So nice. It really, I think, adds a lot to it. Really fantastic.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I had so much fun.
Really
I
nice.
used this something terracotta. I mean, I had to.
Yeah, I love that bead. And I don't use that color as much as I should. I think I really like that. That's the galvanized. Which one is that? The galvanized
The galvanized matte berry.
matte berry. So
Yeah.
nice. So, so nice. And Janice is saying we've got 15 of the Sealy mixes left. So if you want one of those monthly mixes, uh, jump on over to Beadshop and grab it. So the way that you make your handouts, Danielle, is you've really illustrated this one amazingly. And then
Thank
you
you.
also have the bead by bead um, uh, template on there. So do you just want to jump in and start from the beginning and show us how to read it, or where do you want to get started?
Yeah. Let me show starting one of these bands, just in case a peyote refresher is helpful for anybody.
Yeah, that's great.
There is a pattern chart and a word chart you can follow to create it. And you can work this to any length. So this is a really long version of the pattern. But you'll notice on mine, I stopped it like right here. You can stop it at any point that you would like to, or you can repeat it. And I mark this all in the document, but if you repeat from row 13, you can make it even longer and just keep repeating that pattern out. That's why I like the chevron, because you can just make it whatever length you need it to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And so,
it's really nice.
and if you're making it for someone else, you could put it on a bracelet board as you go and just
Right, and
see.
just do the length. Real quick, I hate to interrupt, but there's a couple of questions here that I think would go in here correctly. Would this project work with any size delicas as well as round beads? You could do this in either, couldn't you?
I feel like almost any bead. In fact,
Yeah,
I can't think of a bead that wouldn't work unless it's like a 2-hole bead. You might have to really change it up. But even then, the
yeah,
concept here of just creating 2 bands that overlap on your wrist and connecting them couldn't be
will
simpler.
work.
Yeah.
Great. And then Audrey has a question here. With the buttonhole end, are just a 2 bead length uh, will be sturdy enough to secure the button and not become misshaped? So you have a 2 length there.
Yeah.
I know that you reinforce it quite a bit, so I feel confident that it should be okay. What do you think?
I've been wearing this one a lot, and it's been
Mhm,
pretty good, and my reinforcing was okay, not amazing.
mhm,
If you wanted to really reinforce it, but there's no reason you can't add extra rows. You could
mhm.
even add rows after it's finished. So,
Right.
like, for example, you could just do a 3-drop center
Mhm,
and keep stitching, and it would become odd count at this point.
mhm.
Okay,
That's
and maybe
that's
not.
great.
You could even pop up that center bead and maybe even I don't know, there's options there.
Mhm, for sure. And then, Myra's asking, what's the length of your completed one, Danielle, just for reference?
For this one, let's see, let me grab because I really just tested it around my wrist. I went
Mhm.
for 7 1/4. It's
Right.
actually a little bit longer than 7 1/4. So
Mhm.
right about, let me try to line those up there. Yeah, right, yeah, 7 1/4-ish.
7 1/4. Great. Very nice. Okay. Well, sorry about that. I thought that those were good questions to toss in now. So
Questions. And I
you're
believe
back
if you keep going in the pattern and you take it all the way out to the finish link that it shows, that will bring it to another 8, 9.5 inches.
on. Okay.
So this full illustration here,
Is
I
nine
think
and a half.
9.5.
Gotcha. So depending on the wrist size or how long you want it to be, or you could, um, just do that single and wrap it around.
Yeah,
Um, there's a lot of options with this. Oh, love. Great.
And what happened here was I strayed from my pattern. Instead of doing an ombre up and down the hill,
Mm-hmm.
I started over when I got to the final color. And
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to finish with the same number of uses of every color. So I just went ahead and made it a smidge longer for my color pattern desires there.
Right. Oh, it
Yeah.
looks really nice. I really like this colorway. It has a very like modern feel to it. I like it a lot.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I had so much fun. I love these.
Yeah, really
I just
nice.
want to sit and make these all day for real. They're really fun.
Right.
And so I think what I'll do just really quick is I'll put these aside and just start over on a new one.
Sounds perfect.
And I already have a few beads out, but let me get the rest of them.
And Danielle, I'm just going to mute myself so you don't hear like printing stuff and stuff in the background, but I'm listening and I'll pop in. Okay. So don't feel like you're flying blind here. I'm
No
just
worries.
muting myself for a sec.
Okay. And I'm just going to add one. So what I'm doing here, let me show you guys on the pattern, is I'm laying out my colors in order of the peyote stitch pattern. And so that's here on page 4. And so I'm going to start with the teal and the eucalyptus. Then I'm going to go tea rose, salmon, cardinal, and berry. Then just laying those out so I can follow my word chart. And so let's get the next color here. This color kind of led me to use the other colors because if you look really closely at the bead, you can see kind of in the center there, it has almost a salmon color inside. And I don't know if that's on purpose or something about the bead or how it was made, but it makes me happy when I look at it. So that's why I chose that bead to go right to this one. And then here's that frosted teal. Gosh, I love that color so much. I use this one a lot. It's often the right bead for a lot of things. And then for my thread, I'm using some KO beading thread. And I just have it right here. Where did it go? It seems to have wandered off. I don't even know how that's possible. I was just using it.
Same with me always, Danielle.
Where'd my thread go? Oh, here it is. I just buried it under seed bead tubes.
Of
So
course.
that's the apricot color, but like you could go with any color. This has so many potential colors you could use. I feel like this pattern and the palette itself lends itself nicely to a lot of different thread colors. This one just kind of moved the universes here together, so I went with that one. And so what I usually do to start peyote is I'll just go with a wingspan for me, so 65 to 75 inches or so, and then just don't be afraid to add thread. And I have some samples here to show you adding thread on. And so I'm just going to trim that. And you'll get pretty far on this design with a wingspan because it's not actually very long. All right. Sorry, it's not the design's not wide, so the row goes quickly, if that makes any sense. And so I'm just folding over a little bit. Actually, a lot, just to make it a little shorter, easier to work with. And I'm gonna start by stringing 6A beads. And leave a tail that's, just a good tail, like 7 to 10 inches. It's just going to be used to reinforce at the end. This will probably be, it will be likely the side. It doesn't have to be, but in the case of my designs, it was the side that will have the buttonhole. So you might want to leave enough tail to give that some extra strength on those edges, like we were talking about, especially if you want to add a few rows just to make it extra secure. All right, and so here is those 6 beads, and that completes what's written here as rows 1 and 2. So now I'm just going to pick up 1A, skip an A, and go through the next A. We'll do that 3 times to complete row 3. So I'm just going to pick up a bead, skip the next one, and go through the one that is after it. And if you pull your working and tail thread apart from each other, it'll help start your peyote stitch really nicely like that. So I'm just going to hold one side and repeat that again. One more, skip the next one, and go through the one that's right after it. I'm just going to pull that through and tighten. And let's do that one more time. Pick up a bead, skip one, and go through the last one.
This does work up so quickly, like you said, Danielle. That's so great.
Yeah, I love designs that are fast to complete because then you can make lots of them.
Yeah.
I'm inspired by the colors more than anything, and I will just lay tubes out, and the days just aren't long enough to see them all come to life, you know?
Yeah, same. That's how we do it too when we're doing our monthly mix. I like to start by laying out the tubes and then things just kind of start to coalesce from there.
Yeah, exactly. And so now I'm on row 4. So row 4 here, we're just gonna do the same thing over again, but this time it's gonna be even easier because we have up beads to look at. So I'm seeing that I have skip a bead and go through the next bead, which is that one that's sticking out. And I picked up another color A before I did that. And we'll just repeat, pick up a bead, go through the next one, tighten. We'll pick up a bead and go through the last bead and tighten. And so there's rows 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you can count that by looking at the edge. You can see that there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then even count peyote, we can do that, figure out what row we're on just by counting the side beads on each side. Just super handy. And so starting with row 5, we're going to start introducing the new colors. So I'll start with color B, or eucalyptus, and then I'll do another 2A. And so color B here. And we'll go through the up bead. So you'll have that. And then we'll get color A. We'll go through the next one. Color A. And go into the last one. And if at any point you feel like it needs it, you can pull to tighten. And I want to show one more trick that I don't do this every row, but I do this probably every 5 rows, just to kind of keep everything locked in, and especially if I'm going to set it down and come back later, I'll take my thread, and this is just kind of a weird thing. So I'm going to go back through this bead here. And just maybe give that a tighten. And then go ahead and turn and head right back up through the one you were just exiting. And I call that a lock turn. And again, it's entirely optional. You don't need to do that.
That's a great tip, Danielle. It
like
kind of firms everything up, right?
Yeah, especially in those first rows where things are getting wobbly. It's really nice to have that. And if you tighten it, you shouldn't see that turn. It should hide itself. Good.
Yeah, that looks great. And Sally has a quick question as you continue to stitch. Sally's asking, what made you decide to put T-rose in the pattern? She loves it, but with the different finish, I would have never thought to use it with these other beads.
You know what? I think I'm trying to remember. I happen to have had those tubes out for some reason. Mm-hmm. And so I think they just rolled next to each other. And I had these two together at first because they're both defrosted.
Right.
And so from there, I was just going through my stash and I was matching things to each one. So they kind of brought the others in.
Yeah, that's great.
And I went hunting for one. There was one that I went digging for, and it was this one, because I felt like I needed a step between that one and this one, because I was trying to go from that to that.
Right.
And I didn't feel like that worked. And so
you needed something to build the bridge.
Yeah. And then it happened.
Yeah.
And then I just closed the end with that. But literally it was designed by laying tubes next to each other.
I love it. It looks great.
Which is actually that's really what I do, I think.
Same.
And so row 6, we're just going to work back 2A, 1B. Super easy. And now everything's nice and locked in, so it should be easy to get my needle through that next bead without it loosening. And again, you won't feel like you need to do that every row, but it really does help just every so often. Just go ahead and add that little addition. 7, we'll just do 2B and 1A. And so you see me following the pattern along, but you won't need to do that. So I'll show you a little visual cue here in the repeats that will tell you when to change colors, and then you'll just see the stairs. So what I mean by the stairs is, this is why I love stripey patterns, is you don't really need to follow a chart. We know this next bead here, for example, in the staircase, we know that we want that to be color B. And then that one will probably still be color A. But when we head back down, we'll have made that full swoop. And another way to know that is every 4 beads on the edge. So here, this is my color A that I'm adding. Now I see I've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. And in this pattern, every 4 beads, you'll be changing color. And that's true on both sides. So if you find yourself adding a 5th bead after any of them, you know that, oh, hang on, I was supposed to switch it there. And you'll see the staircase. You'll see it building. So
That's a great tip.
Yeah, because I find reading patterns really slows me down. Like,
yeah,
if I'm going to make something and I'm going to make a lot of them and it's going to be, I just kind of want to stitch without looking.
Right. And it gets, as soon as you say, you kind of get familiar with it, you kind of fall into the rhythm of the pattern for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And then you'll notice it goes really quickly.
Yeah.
So if you're getting stuff like that, that happens to me often, and you didn't do a lock turn, you don't want to go back and do that, just grab that bead, tighten it, hold it, everything in your hand, and just pull through. And then maybe at the end of this row, I'll do another lock turn. And so there's completing the staircase there. I'll throw a little lock turn in there. Looking great. And now I've got to put the top step on. I know it's going to be color B. And there we just completed a complete color swap. Now it's all going to be B for a little bit. So really the word chart, you'll use like the first 5, 6 rows, and then you won't need it anymore. But it's there if you like it. Some folks like to follow it, and definitely on a more complicated pattern, you'd want to have that.
And you can see you've already, you're moving right along for sure. So again, this is a pattern that makes up very quickly.
It sure does. Yeah. And there's just so many colors waiting for me right now. So many tubes of beads. And so now, see, this is 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I know this next bead, number 5, needs to be the next color. And there's that one. And then just finish that row. And so on, just like that. And I think you can finish this entire band in a half hour.
Well, you can.
But I feel like once you got the hang of it, though, like the peyote stitch, even counting, you're flying at that point. You're like, yeah, I got this. And see, I'm not really even looking at the pattern. You don't really need to. It's just a good old stripey pattern. I think I'm going to do a lock turn here. It's asking me to.
Yeah, you can kind of tell when it starts to get kind of a little loose, That lock turn is a great tip.
Thank you. Yeah, necessity just kind of brings forth these things.
Yeah, it looks great, though.
Thanks. And so, yeah, this is all you got to do. You just keep going. You just keep building. And what you'll find is that you're probably going to run out of thread. Let me show you on this one. You're going to probably run out of thread somewhere over here. So I'll slide this back a little bit. There we go. So you see, I got pretty far on that one strand. And then I had to add another strand to get here, but that left me with a pretty long, because I did a whole wingspan, left me with a nice long working side that can be used to do the next steps. And so weaving in and adding thread is pretty easy to do. I was attempting to do some of the tricks with the knotting. I was finding an inconsistent result with the KO. It worked some of the time, and some of the time I was able to pull my knot free. It's like a charm with Fireline, but when I was doing it with KO, so I mean, I can show it, but I show it with the caution that it works for me like 50% of the time.
Right. So this is the one you're going to do mostly weaving in and out, right?
I weaved in for this on both of them, both of these bands, because it, it doesn't take super long to do. It's pretty quick. And you see on this side, for some reason, I ran out a little sooner. I think I just must have cut less thread for that. But
that's what I usually do. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. That's what I usually do with the KO as well. Just because, I think that tie-off trick with the Fireline is perfect. But I agree, sometimes my KO just pulls right apart.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm wondering if, sometimes for some reason, I don't know why, but on 1G, I was having more success, but I think it's because I was able to puncture it. It frayed a little bit. I was able to maybe get the needle through a little bit. And that, from like working with fibers like yarn and stuff, that's one of the ways to join, is to kind of like sew them. Yeah. So I was kind of maybe doing that by accident and not realizing that was weird.
Yeah, right. Oh, and you might hear Alfred meowing in the background. He's coming for his pets from Miranda. So
Aw, hi, Alfred.
He's telling her, pet me.
Oh, he's so cute.
That big boy.
Aw. But yeah, and so any questions on the beginning peyote part?
No, I think we're good. Do you want to do a weave in and out?
Yeah, let's show that. Let me add a new strand on this side just to show how to do that really quick. So we'll add a long one that we can use to finish, and I could weave in some of these other ends really quick as well.
Okay, sounds perfect. Alfred.
I'm just going to grab a needle here. I have a bunch of needles next to me, but they're all stuck on other threads. Oh my God. Here we go. All right, and did I cut that one free yet? No, that one's still on the spool. So. Lately, I've been starting working, having forgotten to cut it free from the spool. I don't know why I'm doing that, but... There we go. So getting that one side through, and I'm just going to trim this one free here. All right. And so what I usually do is, as you can see here, so I leave my old working threads in place, and I'll bring in a new strand somewhere, anywhere really, and just weave to exit from the same spot as that old working thread. That's super important with peyote patterns, any pattern really, because then you're leaving off in the same place where you left off with the old thread, and when you start your word chart again or graph that you're right where you need to be. And so I'm just bringing the thread through a few rows. I'm holding the tail right now, and I can see that it still moves very readily when I pull on it. So just holding it in place, and I'm going to make some turns in the work. So just go through a few beads. And I'm going to just do a test over here. That's probably enough to say it's locked in. So let's just see if that tail moves when I pull. It's pretty tight. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that tail. And I'm going to leave the old working thread in place. and keep moving on and making new rows if that's what I was doing. But in this case, I'm doing something different. I'm going to be using this as connecting. So I'm going to go ahead and weave in this other one. But normally what I would do is I'd create new rows and weave the old thread up into those new rows. In this case, let's just get rid of this one so it's not on our way when we're doing our connection. So I'm just going to make some turns. Bring it down through a few rows, zip around. And so since we have no tail to test with a strand that is already was the working one, I just do this whole make 3 turns rule where I know if I've gone and made 3 turns and then go through a few more beads after that, then I probably got it. And it's probably not going to come loose for me. So there's one side. That is all set and ready to go. And let me flip it over here. Oop. Lots of beads going everywhere. And so now I've got this super long working strand here that I can use as the one that'll do this work. This one over here, I could weave it in, or I could save it and use it to reinforce this side. And I think that's probably what I'm going to do. But just to get it out of the way really quick, I'm going to go ahead and bring it to the edge. It's just kind of left in place where it was when I started my piece. So let's just bring it out over here.
And good thread management's half the battle. So
Yeah,
it really helps when they're not, if you still need them, but they're not quite in your way.
exactly. And this one I think we'll be really happy to have later when we're fixing those 2 beads at the end. And maybe we can even try that experiment that you guys just thought of, which is adding some rows to it.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're ready to do the fun part.
All right.
Let me grab a button and show you how. So for example, if you weren't using the same size button that I've got here, what you could do is test it now. And I'll show you that as we go. But so with your thread exiting from, well, first you'll want to make sure that it's laid out in a way that makes you happy. It doesn't have to be in a point. Like you could put it any direction you want to. And they could just be solid colors. It could be so many things. I thought this was cute, but it can go any way you like it. And then I just followed a convention of if I'm exiting from a frosted teal, then I'm going to pick up a frosted teal and go through the next frosted teal. And and one thing I forgot to mention is it's very helpful if you make each of your bands the same counts. So the same number of rows. If they're the same number of rows, they're going to line up really nicely. And if you get to the end and for some reason they're not the same number of rows, don't be afraid to throw on an extra row or 2 to make them line up. And it's totally okay to do that. And just as long as it has the same number, it'll be much easier to complete. But so here's my frosted teal bead, and let's go through the next one. And we should be able to stitch all the way down this whole edge pretty quick. It's really fast. So there's the first connection there. And then just go ahead and make a turn and head up through that next bead. And don't worry if it's loose right now. It probably will be a little bit wobbly just for a little while. I got a pretty long strand going here. So pick up another one of those beads and then go through the next bead in the band. So now you have 2. And if you want to at this step, you can just zip back through. Let me show this really quick. You can do that. So I'm going to just tighten everything here. Pull that side. And from there, you'll just want to turn and head through 1, 2, and 3. And make sure you get through all 3 of those again. And now we're good. So from here, we want to skip enough width or enough height, not sure which is the right word, but we want to skip enough that the button can go right through it. And so what I usually do is just set the button in that configuration and start my next connection in the bead right after it. So for us, super easy. It's going to be that gorgeous tea rose bead. And that is tested here. I've tested to see that that is what works. And they kind of move a little bit too. So it's flexible. You'll be able to get it to work. Your button will fit really well. But if for some reason you're using a bigger button, that's how you test it. So we just need to get to the tea rose bead here. So I'm just going to weave over there. And this is all illustrated for you in the handout. And it might be easier to see, actually. Let me just show you that really quick. This is a little hard to see, but what we're doing essentially is this. We connected those, and we also, we did a little reinforcement. We went around again. And now I'm just going to travel down, and then we'll start connecting again. So just go ahead and go through the adjacent, but instead of adding a bead, we're just going to turn and head up to the one right next to it. And just keep going. Turn to the next one. And if for some reason you're doing this travel and it doesn't work out for you exactly that it's up, down, up, down, and you end up in the right spot, you can always use these beads in this column to make a turn and head right back down through the same one. If, for example, you end up this way. So make sure you can get to the right bead that you want to be at. And then let's just continue joining them up. Oh, thanks, Carolyn. All right, so picking up a tea rose bead this time. And there's our join. And now our button's good. I'm going to make another connection here. Oh, sorry. Turn. I'm going to do 3 and then test the button. And that's what I did.
Fast and easy. Looks great, Danielle.
It's so easy. Yeah. So here's 2. And let's go ahead and reinforce that. Let's go back through. So just like that. Same thing we did at the beginning, just giving it a little strength for our test. And so hanging out there for a minute. Let's bring our button over and see if we can get it to go through. I feel like that's pretty good, and it looks nice when it's sitting on top of it. So that one's pre-tested, but there was some trial and error when I first made that one. So don't be afraid of that to try it out and see with any button that you want. High domed ones, I've noticed, like the check glass ones, the ones with those a little bit higher height way, need longer. So I want to design
to accommodate the width of the button.
Yeah, exactly. The only downer with that is that you'll need a much longer loop, and it might sit with a little more space once it's buckled.
Right.
But I still think that's okay. It's still really cute. So from here on, it's just, second star to the right, straight on till morning, just keep going.
Yeah, nice. And then you just follow the color of the bead that you're going out of. That's the color of the bead that you add, right?
Yeah. Yeah, super, super easy. I just want to keep this one simple. I mean, we could really jazz it up and go to town with a complicated pattern. And maybe we do that now that the technique is out there. Maybe I'll just put together some extra little challenge patterns, but sometimes I just want to see the colors next to each other. So.
Yeah, no, it's really nice.
Yeah, thank you. And this is speedy. And again, same as with the locking turns. If at any point you want to make a reinforced turn, you could do that. Or you can always bring another strand down through the middle at the end. I didn't do that, truth be told, but every once in a while I did do this.
Just to reinforce it.
Yeah, just for the same thing with the peyote stitch. When I was going with the peyote, it was easier sometimes just to have one spot that was holding steady next to the others. And we just keep going. So I should be able to fly through this in, it'll probably take me maybe like 4 minutes or something, I think. Maybe longer, maybe like 5, 6 minutes.
Looks great.
Thanks.
And you could do like a contrasting color down that center for sure if you wanted like a stripe of something. It
Oh,
would
yeah.
also look cool, I think.
You know what I was thinking about? Fire polish.
Yeah. Fire polish would look good. Shadows, metal beads would look good.
And so you're getting into some height differentials there, but I feel like 3 millimeter fire polish might work
Yeah,
here.
might do it. Yeah.
And if you had 6 O's out, your 4 millimeter might work.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe true twos if you were working with 11s.
Yeah. No, it looks great.
Thanks. I think I'll lock those there. I love that berry color. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
So
the berry is so pretty. I like all the Duracoats like that. Really nice.
me too. Well, I don't think there's any CB colors I don't love.
No, it's true. You know,
I might be obsessed.
we keep adding them because if we use a new bead in the mix, we're like, oh, we've got to add it. So,
I've had a recent obsession with color lined. I don't know.
oh, yeah. Emily kind of got me into color lined because she was using clear beads, but with colored thread. So it kind of acts like a color lined, which is cool.
Oh, that is so neat. Oh, that would be really cool. Just clear beads with colorful thread.
Mhm. She's done that with her bead crochet and it looks really amazing.
Oh, I love that. My mind is going 100 miles a minute right now.
Right? I know, exactly. But it's really a cool, it's really cool.
That's so neat. Yeah. And so with this one, we're getting pretty close to the end there. I'm gonna get to where you put your button is actually not set in stone. What I liked was to have it as the third bead in from the edge. I don't think that you have to do that. I think you can kind of go wherever you'd like it. Maybe trying it on and testing it as you go.
Right,
When
to see where you'd put it. And this was an interesting comment. And I would like to see how that looks. I might do it. Twyla's saying that she'd take the color down one more bead so you'd get a chevron that's pointed.
Yeah, you could do that.
Mhm.
I think I tried that and I can't remember why I pulled it out. Um, I think it was really pointed, like where so this bead would be that position,
Right,
but it would look cool still.
right.
I
So
think I might
definitely
even
try with the center line. It would be kind of fun to kind of try some different things that would really alter the look of the piece for sure.
yeah, like what if even like a bright pop of contrasting color
Yeah,
would be so fun to do. I mean, there's a lot of potential there.
yeah, for sure.
I'm just zipping along here. Should go pretty quick. And depending how how many colors you have, I wonder if you could even introduce a couple of additional colors,
Right,
like have a couple
complimentary.
colors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now I got patterns going in my head.
Yeah, it's great. Now you could also add some edging to this, right? I mean, you could add a picot edge to this if you've, decided that you want, something, some edging going on. A picot would look good.
Oh yeah, I think a picot would be amazing.
You can always add a picot to anything, I think.
I love the idea of jazzing this up.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like a bare bones design, just to kind of more concept based, I think. And there's
Mm-hmm.
just so many places that designers can take it from here.
Well, I
Just
think this would look great in black and white different, like, you know, matte and shiny and stuff. And then having that center line run down being like something super bright, like a neon or a
Oh
really
yeah.
bright contrast. I think that would look really super, you know, modern as well.
Oh my goodness. Are you thinking like a fuchsia neon? Would a fuchsia
Yeah,
be?
maybe a fuchsia. We have this green, this kind of super bright green neon that I'm kind of into.
Oh my
Um,
goodness. Yes. I love the neon green. Oh, especially next to gray. That
yeah,
could be so, so cute.
yeah, it would be really cute.
Oh yeah, no, I think that would be yeah, I'm seeing actually all the colors now, like gray, black, fuchsia, the
Yeah, it would
line
be really pretty.
be a hot pink to kind of knit them together. I do love those luminous colors. I know you guys have a bunch of them in the Delicas.
Yeah, those, the silk colors, are you thinking?
I think so. They're kind of like, they have a glow to them. I feel like
Yeah,
they're glowing.
I love the Delica silk for sure. Tina has a quick question, Danielle. You're making the 2 pieces now, but can you do one wide band? You would just kind of follow the, um, the bead chart, right? Or would that work with how you've written it?
So I could do a pattern like that. Yeah, a peyote stitch pattern that is chevron and with a point, and it would actually be a true
Mhm,
point instead of this kind of rolling one.
mhm,
I could do a pattern like that quite easily. And then at that point, what you'd want to do is separate your peyote, which is
mhm.
not hard to do at all. It's really easy to do. And in one case, you would just replace a bead with your button shank. And then on one end, you would need to so for example, when you're doing your peyote stitch, at one point you would break off and only work one side.
Right.
Then you would need to weave back down and get to the right the bead position that can start a new row on the other side and start creating. And
Mhm.
then do a whole row of solid peyote at the end.
Right, to bring them together.
Yeah, and that's totally possible. And I
Mhm,
think it's probably equal in like time spent stitching
mhm.
this because it saves you doing this step that I'm doing right here. But then it's a little bit more advanced because you're trying to do kind of like a 2-column peyote thing and then connect them again at the end. We could do that though. It would be fun. I would enjoy doing that.
Yeah.
All right. So I think I'm getting pretty close to where the button's going to come in. And I do have these other strands hanging out over here. They were my leftover working thread. And I can weave those in later. They're just going to hang out there. So just ignore those guys. But I think I probably should have woven them in earlier, but they're not too in the way because they're over here. Maybe they can help reinforce later. But so around here is where you want to start thinking about your button. And what I found worked on both of these was I kind of like them where they were just a little bit over the edge. But that said, you really could kind of put them further back if you'd like.
Mhm. Depending on the length that you need to.
Yeah. And so this is a spot where, hey, you could test it and you could see like, hey, what do I think about that? Like, how does it look if and it's always, you can always pull that stitching out and move that button later if you want to. But I did a lock turn just there before bringing on these next few, and I'll do a lock turn before I start the button. But here's number 3. So let's lock this in. And now let's go up through this bead here. And if you've got, well, the colors might be different for everybody, but in my case, one of my indicators, so I know it's the last cardinal bead that you've got there. So that's my 3rd bead in from the edge. And totally up to you, however you'd like to do it. And the easiest way to do this is to bring your button under your piece and just kind of settle it there. It's kind of what worked for me. And then let me show you on the diagram what we're going to do so it's easier to visualize. We got that handy here. Yeah, so we just did that. So we're going to just kind of using these as turns. So these are the next column out from the ones we're connecting, and using those to create a reinforced connection with the button. And then we'll come out and add the rest of the row. So it'll look just like that. So here I'm exiting from this side. I go through my button and then head through that bead there. And it'll just bring that to sit right there. So you can kind of see it's just hanging out there. So we're going to make a turn here. Head through one of the next beads in the next column, and then turn back through an adjacent one. And then head right back through that bead. And what'll happen is you'll be able to get through the bead. You'll be able to get through the button shank pretty easily. It's going to look like this on you. I've never really been able to get through in just one swoop, all three. So I stopped trying and worrying about that part, and I just went ahead and made this connection happen. And then just bring my thread back up here and just go through the bead from this side. So there's that. You could add a bead, but this worked out pretty good for me, and I liked how it was a nice height for the piece. So there's one side done. I'm going to reinforce that one more time by going up through this bead and then turn and head through the neighbor bead there. And then again, I'm probably going to be able to get just through these here. So just like that, I got through the bead that connects the button shank and the button itself. I'm going to pull that through. Bring this thread up and go ahead and head right through that bead. So there you go.
Nice.
Button is ready.
Yeah.
So same thing here, we're just going to turn and head through the adjacent bead here, pick up a matching bead, and then head through this one. And then let's finish it. One more bead. That's all there is. All done. So there's obviously a lot of reinforcing, weaving in to happen. I've got some work to do with strands, my old working strands from when I ran out of thread. And then back here at the beginning, I still have a tail that I can use to make that stronger. We could even add a row too if we wanted to. You could add a row here too if you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
It was in a nutshell.
Looks great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, so we could, let me know if you want to see any of those bells and whistles ideas that we had during the chat, like about adding that row, especially that'd be fun to try. Or if you want me to see some weaving in and reinforcing here, I could show that.
Yeah, why don't you just go ahead and reinforce a couple for us, Danielle, just so we'll see that. And then I think we're probably good to go.
All right. Sure. Sounds good. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and just go through some beads, maybe make a turn. And then I'm going to head back through this one. And this is a chance to make these edge ones stronger.
And you're using a size 10, just a regular size 10 beading needle, correct?
Yeah, this is the size 10. Earlier, I had pulled out some random needles that happened to be stuck in my mat.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that. I'm a random needle user these days. I don't know.
Well, if they're laying out, it's like you want to keep using them.
Yeah.
For sure.
And so that was kind of similar to a lock turn there, where I looped through these,
Mm-hmm.
the little circle. And from here, I'm just going to weave in. It's pretty good. Feels pretty strong. And if I need to use these little edgers, I still have these little edgers. I can come back and do that if I need to. Anything you see loose from here on out, if you've got the thread, head that way, make it stronger. And then I had another crazy idea. And this one is definitely Wild Fest, but after making one of these, if you wanted to, you could bring your thread to exit from the top side.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to do that from an area that's not under the button. So we'll head back here, just get away from the button a little bit. And I haven't done this yet. This is just an idea that's kind of in my head, but I figure you guys are game for it.
Totally.
Yeah. All crazy ideas welcome. What if we did a kind of like stitch in the ditch? Have you heard of in Peyote Stitch where you're adding another bead on top of a bead?
Oh.
I'll use a contrasting bead to show it. But so we could pick up a bead and skip a bead and go through the next one, just like you're doing Peyote Stitch, but you're layering it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'd have another little bead sticking up on top.
Oh, how fun.
And then I would skip another one. And I would go back here.
Through the first one of those three. So it's like you're doing a row of 3.
Yeah, and it's kind of a silly idea, but I wanted to see what it would look like if I did, because skip one and then create another connection.
Mm-hmm.
Got a lot of stuff going on here. Sorry about that. Lots of craziness happening there with my tails. There we go. Okay. But so little dots.
Look at that. Yes, I love it.
And then it would be a next level of wildness. But what if there were some 11 O's happening? Like, head up through here. So that right there is cute. And you can just see that running down the top.
Yeah.
That would be really neat. But if I headed back up through one of these and we grabbed some 11 O's, I just have some random 11 O's. I'm just going to pull some.
Yeah, let's do it. I love those dots.
The dots right there are win, I feel like. But what if, and this might be the too much part right here, but we connected them.
So you'd make them like little circles. Nice.
Yeah, it looks like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 random colors here. Ignore colors. But,
and if there's 5, you could put in the center, the odd one in the middle could be a drop even.
Yeah, I know. Wouldn't that be cool? So,
or another 8 odd, you could do, but that's really cool. I love this idea of having ways to embellish on the top, and to start with that little 8-aught that's stitched on is a great idea.
What about a wave? So one side, then do.
Oh yeah, that would be great as well, especially kind of with the movement of the chevron kind of has movement. The wave would also have movement. I love it.
That would be fun, and it would cover up some of the center. So you would have, it might make up for that it doesn't come to an exact point. So kind of going. I might do this.
No, I like it. No, and I love just the 8-aught as the dot down the center too.
I like that as well.
That's really clean looking.
Sometimes simpler is the better option. But yeah, that would look really cool on just dot, 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 dot.
Yeah, and you just want to make sure that you're stitching them on the top, on the button side, so that they're on the top of the bracelet, not below, underneath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and that could be, it could be gold or silver.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
It would.
Oh, I need like 4 lifetimes.
Right. Yeah, I know. I need a lot of time to make samples. There's just not enough time in the day to create, for sure. This looks awesome. Well, Danielle, would you put your bonus project up next to it just so we can see it? And then, friends, if you want to do a quick screenshot, it'd be a good time to do it. Do note that you can find all of this on beadshop.com. If you go to the homepage, it's called Maytime, and you can find the project, download the handout, And on the last page of the handout is Danielle's bonus project that incorporates the February monthly mix as well as the hex beads, the size 8. So,
Yeah.
and
That's really
do note, everybody, yeah, and that's that one right there. Do note that I will have, Danielle was kind enough to make the bespoke pattern for us. I'm going to put all of this back on the screen here. To do this bespoke pattern doubled. So I will add that to the newsletter tomorrow. So make sure and open your newsletters tomorrow, friends, to get that one.
Yay.
Awesome. Looks great. All right. Well, thank you, Danielle. Thank you so much for this fantastic project. I'm really excited about all the possibilities for it, for sure.
I'm so happy you like it. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, as always, I know that I know that we have something in the hopper, I'm sure, coming up with you. But we really appreciate it, doing these bracelets and all of your projects. I was just moving some beads around and I came up, on a couple of your necklace projects and stuff. So we really are so thankful that you make such great projects for us, because as you know, new projects, it's always great to have people create some new things. So it was really fun.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for all the inspiration that you put into the bead.
Well, right back at you. Well, I will be back on Friday. Danielle will be back with us soon, so stay tuned to your newsletters. I have something fun coming up for you on Free Tip Friday, something that I kind of alluded to last week. It has to do with Janice's trade route necklace. It's going to be fun. And then next week, the monthly mix for April drops. Janice and I are doing part 3 of our pearl knotting masterclass. And on Friday, a week from this Friday, we'll have Drea with us to play around with the monthly mix, because it's a Drea designed mix. So I'm really excited about all that.
Yay. Love her mixes.
Fantastic. Yay for mixes. Well, thank you again, my friend. We will talk soon. And we really, all of us, everyone saying how much they appreciate you and appreciate your fantastic design. So we thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thanks so much, guys.
All right. Well, we will see you soon, Danielle. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. Bye, all.